Back to my YouTube channel. This is 1950 Chevrolet truck IFS installation, and eventually we're going to put an LS engine in it. So we've removed the front axle, got the frame rails cleaned up. You had to cut a few things off of it, like the shock tower mount. So we got that cleaned up. The next thing we're going to do is mark off we're going to take a measurement from this shackle eye, 18 inches, 18 and a half inches back. That's what the directions say. This is a classic performance independent front suspension. So you can go to their website and actually download the instructions, but this is what they sent me. See, I was wrong. It's actually 18 and 1/8 inch from this leaf spring eye pin to the center of the axle, or the center of the cross member that you're going to weld in. So that's what we'll do next, is mark that off. All right, I've taken a measurement from that eye pin for the leaf spring, and I put it in center, but just to show you, I'm not going to be able to hold it and hold the camera at the same time. And I've made I've drawn a line there, and I just use the my angle locator to get the same angle as the frame rail, which is about 1 degree. But anyway, that's how I did it. So the directions for the next step is saying measure from here to here and make a notch into the frame and weld in. It's like a boxing plate that's in a radius, and I'll show it to you in a second. But that's what it's asking to do next, and that's just clearance for the rack and pinion. The directions are asking us to come off of that center line that we just marked 4 5/8 inches to the center line of this radius, and then make a radius here, and it says to use the actual plate, the boxing plate that came with the with your kit, to as a template. When you put it up there, you just use it as a template to to mark it or whatever. But so that's what we'll do next. All right, you can see the axle center line is 18 and 1/8 inch, and from here to this line to the center of that radius is 4 5/8 inches. So that's where that belongs there, and that's just a boxing plate. Once we cut it out, we'll fit it in there and weld it up in there. So I have the notch cut. I used a plasma cutter to cut it. You probably could use just like a little body saw if you didn't have a plasma cutter or whatever, but you can see it's fitting kind of loose over here toward the ends. So I'll just take this this plate and probably just hammer down on it, and it'll spread out a little bit to close that gap. No big deal. That could be welded to close the gap also, but that's the boxing plate. All right, next I've done some trimming. For the driver's side, I've trimmed it off with a plasma cutter here, just to be kind of straight with the rest of the frame rail. Passenger side, I haven't trimmed it yet, and you can see how it tapers out, and it's not really straight with the rest of the frame rail. So you have to trim it here. At least that's what I think you have to do. This kit, the instructions are so vague, it's just hard to go about doing it when you don't have specific instructions. It's an inexpensive kit, and it was manufactured in China. That's what I see on the box. So doesn't have good instructions. So we're gonna do that and see how it fits. I went ahead and cut that C-notch into the boxing plate for the rack and pinion clearance. I think that's the correct way to do it. The instructions didn't say anything about that. So this is the driver's side. I've already notched out the boxing plate on the passenger side. You can see it's interfering with where the rack and pinion clearance would be at. So I went ahead and put the C-notch in the passenger side. There. Now I have the cross member up in place. It's just held in just by itself. It's kind of wedged in between the two frame rails. It fits pretty snug. So I like the fitment of it. But we're going to make a mark in the center. We're going to find the center. So I'm using a set of dial calipers to find the center. Then I'm gonna mark it center. Then I'm gonna line it up with this center line that I've drawn for the axle. As you can see, this side was 3 inches 825 thousandths. So I did half of that, which is 191. That's an inch 912 thousandths and a half. So that's what I did. On here I halved it, and just scribed the line, and I checked my work to that side. On the other side, it's actually different. It's 3 inches 720 thousandths. So I'll just do the same to this side. I'll half that and just take my half on the calipers. Once I get it set, then I'll scribe a line on that, and that'll be my center of this. Why it's got a difference, I don't know. I have the cross member in place. I lined it up by using my straight edge. Not really lined up by the straight edge, but you can see the actual line here. It's a pencil mark, and that's a scribe mark that I scribed with my dial calipers. And so I just looked from above and just eyeballed it, so it's right on if it's not fairly close. And you can double check your measurements, but let's kind of review and see if I can do this while I hold the camera. From this pin, the center of that pin, which holds the shackle, that's the shackle pin, to the line that we drew, it should be, if I could get it right on the angle, you would see that is 18 1/8. That's the measurements that they gave me from CPP when I actually emailed them, and they gave me some exact measurements, because the measurements on the actual PDF instructions that I downloaded, they were pretty vague, so I asked them to give me some more measurements. And from that measurement, we measure over to get this radius. And the center of that radius is 4 5/8, if I remember correctly. So 4 and 5, let me see. Okay, yeah, there we go. So 4 5/8 from that line down to the center of that radius. That's for the clearance for the rack and pinion. So now that we have all that, I'm just gonna go ahead and tack it. I'm gonna tack everything up real good, where the hole, and assemble everything, and then we'll see. I would actually like to try to put the front clip back on the truck so we can see if the wheels are nice and centered in the wheel well. Looking at it straight on, that's the angle of the frame rail. So the directions say rake it back, or rake it 1 to 1.5 degrees. So we're probably just going to do like maybe 1 degree. We're not going to give it a whole lot of rake. So I have the angle locator on the cross member, and the directions say lean the cross member back to compensate for the chassis rake 1.5 to 2 degrees. So I'll probably just go ahead and go with like 1.5 degrees, because right now it seems to be the same as the chassis, or the frame rail. So I'm just gonna rake it like 1.5 degree back. All right, on the spring tower, it's given a measurement of 1 3/4 from the you can call it the front of the cross member to the back edge or the front edge of the spring tower. So that's what we have here. From here to the front edge is 1 3/4, and I've measured it, and it's accurate. But also, I just decided to go ahead and, you know, draw a center line from this point to this point, just divide it in half, and use my center line for the that I did for my axle center line, and it measured 1 3/4. You know, so you could do it either way.
Just to be fair and clear about Chinese-made parts, I want to take a moment to say that just because these parts were made in China doesn't mean that the quality is automatically substandard to US-made parts. The company selling the parts has the final say in quality control. For an example, these headers were purchased from China and are of very good quality as far as my eye can see. But with this CPP kit, you'll probably end up modifying and making a few adjustments before you get to the end of your project. So keep in mind and be prepared for that.
Okay, so I have those welded in. Well, not welded completely in, but I have them tacked in. I don't want to really get too aggressive with welding things in yet until we're sure that everything fits correctly. All right, I have it pre-assembled. I put the control arms on loosely. Only thing about this is I had to attach that ATV strap to this control arm to pull it apart so I could get the washers in. Had to do that on both sides. So that'll conclude this video. Catch the next video to see the progress on it. What we'll do in that video is I'm just going to do the mock-up assembly and maybe put the front clip back on it and see, you know, how everything lines up inside the fender wells. Share this video with anyone, because I couldn't find a video just with like a 1940 7 through 54 truck. So for the IFS for CPP. So this is what this is about. So if you know anyone that this might help, or you have any suggestions for me, you know, share it or comment, and like it and subscribe. Thank you.